What's up, y'all? Checking in. So I'm about to just go off the top of the head, right? So when I started my business back in July of 2024, at that point, starting pressure washing business crossed my mind maybe once, and that was because my older brother, he started his business like 2018, 2019, something like that. He had like a 2-year run. And he lives in Florida, so that's a whole different market, right? And so I was thinking, it's like, man, my brother, he's a hard worker, start his own business. Like that was something like, it was admirable because I never started, a business before. I always, was an employee and I worked for somebody. And so at that time, I was happy for him, but it wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna do that one day, or that's something I wanna do. Wasn't knocking it. It just wasn't something I wasn't interested in. And so it wasn't until, like I said, last year, I went through a career change. Not gonna get into too many details with that, but I went through a career change, and so I left one job and I ended up finding another job after applying to 50, maybe 100 some jobs and getting denied. But thankfully God opened up a door and provided this job that I'm currently still at now. But during that time, I was realizing like, man, like you really gotta know people. You really gotta like, have this like crazy circumstances, you gotta be a unicorn almost to just like cold apply to a job, not knowing anybody, and them, pulling your resume out of hundreds of people and giving you a call back for your first phone interview, then a second interview, and then maybe a third, in-person interview. And then even then, it's not guaranteed until they actually hire you. So I was just kind of like really wrestling, like, man, like my worth, like I know I got experience, and but I've been in this particular lane for so long, and now I'm stepping out that lane, but still kind of at the mercy of somebody else telling me, oh yeah, you add value or you don't add value. Anyway, so during that time, I was actually selling books on Amazon or reselling books on Amazon. And then I did Uber, I did DoorDash for like 3 weeks, maybe to a month. And honestly, I'm not knocking any of those things, so hear me say that. But I was realizing, during those times, I'm, going out, 3 or 4 hours a night, leaving my wife and 3 kids at home, just trying to make some extra money, and realizing like, man, this really it's not giving the return that I want it to be. The time I spend away from my family is not giving the return that I think that would make it make sense. So I'm just like, man, I got to get in a position that I can own my own situation. I can have flexibility in my schedule. I can, create my prices, but also on top of that, that I know I can add real value to somebody else's life, and then exchange that value is going to come back to me. Monetarily and other things, right? So back in like April or May of 2024, I was working and I was pretty much done with my work for the day, but I was on my lunch break and just scrolling and Googling stuff and, equipment, and watching a lot of YouTube videos of pressure washing. And I remember I had reached out, I saw this guy in my city, and he owns a pressure washing company. And I talked about this in previous videos. And he had a news story, and young black guy. So we fit the similar demographics. And the city had owed him some money on some work that he done or whatever. So I was like, wow, I was just so happy to like researching pressure washing, and this news story pop up on my timeline. And so I looked up his business, I looked up his phone number, and I reached out, said, hey man, I know you don't know me, but I'm interested in getting into the industry. I don't know really where to start, but I would love to just, connect with you, chop it up. And if you got anything you can give me, And I said, hey man, I want to take you out to lunch. I'll pay for your lunch. I'll pay for your time. And he was like, yeah. So we met up and I had, notebook, pen, ready to go. And he was, man, so patient, so transparent with me. And he gave me a lot of research. He gave me a lot of guidance. He gave me a lot of tips. He gave me a lot of advice. He shared a lot of things with me, good, bad, ugly, within that hour time. And that set me off on a trajectory okay, I think I can do this. So I remember going home and telling my wife how good of a time I had. And I'm like, man, I'm ready to move forward. So I ended up purchasing my first pressure wash machine. Bought that off Facebook Marketplace for $650. It was a 3.5 gallon per minute pressure washer. And I didn't really know as much. He gave me some information. I was researching, but still, you just don't know until you actually get into the industry. You learn, you make mistakes. So I remember me and my wife, we drove down to Arkansas and picked up the machine and came back home. I'm like, okay. So started with my house, started with a couple friends, couple neighbors that live around me. And looking back, I'm like, man, it took me hours to finish a basic driveway. And, look back, I'm like, man, it's just so much I didn't know at the time. But I started, y'all. We are not well off. We are not well off. But I know everybody, situation is different, but we're not well off. But it took a financial sacrifice, to start this, and time sacrifice, But in a short amount of time, I was starting to see hey, this really got some legs to it. Even my wife said that. And not just that, it was I can really create a brand and present myself, to people, strangers, and offer them a service, but also, build a relationship. And I knew, early on, my price was super low. I was just trying to get work. And, but at the same time, I knew man, once I get better at, what I'm doing, learning my solution ratios and how to use a machine and different kinds of surfaces to clean and, all those different things, I felt like it was a matter of time before I increased. It's a matter of time before I added extra services, and just kind of build my business, get better at everything, y'all, the marketing, equipment, Even this trailer was a game changer. But another thing I want to talk about is what I'm doing now. Vlogging, whatever you want to call it, social media. Sometimes I do struggle, y'all, if I'm being honest, excuse me, why am I providing content, right? Why am I making content? Is it because, I really enjoy it? I think it's really worthwhile. Is it because, man, I want to see how many subscribers, how many followers, how many likes I can get? Because sometimes in this day and age, and I hate to sound like that guy, but real talk, social media can fool you to think man, everybody got it going on. In every industry, every aspect of life, there's this highlight or this projection of man, look at me. And so I didn't want to be that. And I did have some moments that I was putting out content and it was I don't even really sound like that, And I remember this random person commenting on one of my videos and he was just saying hey man, just talk normal. You don't got to talk like you reading off a paper for a project or a speech. And I felt some kind of way at first, but at the same time, I had to remember first off, these are complete strangers. So it's it don't have to be that deep. But then second off, it's man, if you're going to be on social media and you putting out content, it is a vulnerable space because you're putting it out, for the world, random people, people who are ugly, not physically, but just mean, you know what I'm saying? They just out to troll. You put it out for them, but then you put it out for the good, kind-hearted people to be scrutinized or encouraged or shared. And so, but what keeps me coming back to just hey man, I need to document this process for me. I need to document this process for my kids, for my family, but also for that person who's watching on the other side of the screen who may or may not identify with me in a similar story, and who's trying to better their lives and better their family lives, you know, and stepping out to create a business and, you know, adding value and, you know, just doing a quality job, man, and really like putting themselves, like changing the temperature of their life. And that's what I'm trying to get on, y'all. Like the business still, it's still far from where I envision and what I'm praying and hoping that God will bless it. But I'm noticing like it got some feet to it. So I gotta be patient. And so with the content stuff, I'm gonna just document, man. I'm gonna try to become more and more comfortable, you know, with just sharing and not worrying about edits and being polished and heck, not even worrying about the views, because sometimes they can be misleading and it can mess with you. Like, man, I thought this video was gonna do well. I thought this video, you know, whatever. And so what I'm doing is I'm just putting it out there and I'm gonna see what happens. If anything, I can look back and see the progression over time, or like I've already seen, like, man, people really watch it. People are inspired by it, you know, and it's helping, you know what I'm saying? And so that's where I'm at right now. And I will let y'all in more and more of the journey, more and more of my life. Again, sometimes I'm like, man, am I sharing too much? You know, or am I not sharing enough? But there's no right or wrong answer to that. Regardless, I want to be authentic and I want to be helpful. And so you're going to get more of these trailer talks when I'm just chopping up with y'all kind of randomly, you know, all over the place, but it's going to be raw, unedited, straight shot. And so real quick, yesterday was my first wash, and I think I already shared a video, maybe not. My first appointment was yesterday of the year, and I was grateful for that, man. It feels good to be out there cleaning again. The weather is kind of spotty right now. I mean, it's still winter. And Memphis, man, one day like today, it's 60 degrees. And then next week is gonna be a little 20-some degrees. And so like the winters and the springs even are kind of up and down, but I'm staying ready, man. I'm staying ready. When them above freezing days hit, like I'm staying ready. If I get a call, like I'm still marketing, I'm still, you know, thinking through different things to get my name out there, connecting, networking. Excuse me, fly out the burp. Oh, sorry. But I'm doing all of that. And so anyway, y'all, like hopefully you've been enjoying the content. Again, I'm just trying to let you behind the scenes that it ain't always smooth sailing. Like as we speak right now, I'm waiting on some money for a job I did in November, early November. And it's a significant amount of money, y'all. Over $1,000. I'll say that, over $1,000, and the property still hadn't closed. And I asked, I offered to defer the payment to closing because the seller couldn't pay at the time. And I knew it was gonna be a risk, but to wait on that money, it's been a challenge, but that's part of it. You know, you can choose to, nope, I'm not gonna wait. I'm gonna get my money upon completion. But for me, I'm like, okay, it's gonna come. I know it's gonna work out. And so it's stuff like that. Like, I just wanna let y'all in to know, like, okay, there's some real, you know what I'm saying, challenges in this journey, but there's a lot of also encouraging things that happen too. So anyway, I held you long enough. Hopefully you was inspired, or not inspired, enlightened a little bit about who Ortez is, the man behind Tag Pressure Wash. But thank you again for watching this. If you made it this far, you're a real one. But subscribe, turn your notifications on for more content. Take care.